Terrible things have been happening out there since the crash. Millions of decent Americans have been robbed of the right to work. Machineries replacing manpower. And I've said nothing. Shame on me.
Never, never in the history of jurisprudence have such terrifying deeds been brought to light. Gentlemen of the jury, you have before you a cruel and cynical monster. Look at him. Observe him, gentlemen. This man who has brains, if he had decent instincts, could have made an honest living. And yet he preferred to rob and murder unsuspecting women. In fact, he made a business of it. I do not ask for vengeance, but for the protection of society. For this mass killer, I demand the extreme penalty, that he be put to death on the guillotine. The state rests its case.
Monsieur Verdou, you have been found guilty. Have you anything to say before sentence is passed upon you?
Oui, monsieur, I have. However remiss the prosecutor has been in complimenting me, he at least admits that I have brains. Thank you, monsieur, I have. And for 35 years, I used them honestly. After that, nobody wanted them. So I was forced to go into business for myself. As for being a mass killer, does not the world encourage it? Is it not building weapons of destruction for the sole purpose of mass killing? Has it not blown unsuspecting women and little children to pieces and done it very scientifically? As a mass killer, I'm an amateur by comparison. However, I do not wish to lose my temper because very shortly I shall lose my head. Nevertheless, upon leaving this spark of earthly existence, I have this to say. I shall see you all very soon. Very soon.
Well, Verdou. You'll have to admit, crime doesn't pay, does it?
No, sir, not in a small way.
What do you mean?
To be successful in anything, one must be well organized.
You're not leaving the world with that cynical remark.
To be idealistic at this moment would be incongruous, don't you think?
What's all this talk about good and evil?
Arbitrary forces, my good fellow. Too much of either will destroy us all.
We can never have too much good in the world.
Trouble is, we've never had enough. We don't know.
Listen, Verdou, I've been your friend all through the trial. Now, give me a break, a story with a moral to it. You, the tragic example of a life of crime.
I don't see how anyone can be an example in these criminal times.
Well, you certainly are, robbing and murdering people.
That's business.
Well, other people don't do business that way.
That's the history of many a big business. Wars, conflict. It's all business. One murder makes a villain. Millions a hero. Numbers sanctify, my good fellow.
Under American pressure, the government pilots now used a new and terrible weapon, napalm.
They started bombing the village with about 8 or 10 planes each time. The first time they bombed us, they aimed at the church and the school. When they came overhead, all 150 school children ran out of the school in a panic, crying.
The Greek state was essentially brought under American control, and such areas as trade unions, foreign trade, the fiscal policy of the Greek state, conditions in prisons, the salaries of civil servants, even Social Security, was really controlled by American officials. Obviously, in the military sector, the control was very, very thorough because the Americans provided not only the equipment but also the economic support for the armed forces, and therefore the Americans had a veto over anything that had to do with the Greek armed forces.
We, the British, had got ourselves into a rather strangely false position in that Greece was a kind of British protectorate, but the British ambassador was not a colonial governor.
The essence of the Truman Doctrine, as it was stated by President Truman in his message of March 12th, was to the effect that we as a nation would help those nations, members of the free world, who were struggling to maintain their independence against threats from without, to wit, Turkey, who was threatened by Russia, Greece, who were threatened by minorities from within, who were aided by outside countries. Remember, this was British territory. We had looked to you to run this area, and we got in only because you asked us to do it.